If you love Dollar Tree, then stick around because in today's video, I'm sharing with you all new DIYs. Do you guys remember on my last Dollar Tree shopping trip when I found these gold candles? There was 3 different sizes and I felt like they looked very similar to an item I had seen on Anthropologie's website. So here is the screenshot of what I saw and I wanted to try to recreate this. The first thing I needed to do was address the color on these candles. These were more of a light gold and I wanted them to be a brass color. So I have 5 different gold rub and buff colors and I found the one that was closest to the brass color. I'm going to use a foam brush to add that brass color rub and buff to my candles. And I did this with all 3 of them, making sure they were completely covered. Next, I really wanted to recreate that top portion on these candles. And I went to the thrift store and I was kind of looking for something. I went to the dishes and I found these little saucers. They are in the shape of flower petals. And when I saw these, I was like, these are perfect. They were white. They were only $1 each. So I went ahead and picked up 3 of them. I feel like I really lucked out on this find, but I will tell you, my thrift store has so many different dishes. So I really think you could find something comparable at your thrift store. I'm going to attach these to the top of my candles with E6000. I let this dry overnight and here's how I styled them in my home. I'm really excited to show you guys this next DIY. I'm gonna show you how to create a sconce. You're gonna need 2 items. The first thing you're going to need is a push light. Now this is a little bit larger than your average push light. I'm gonna put a link to it down in the description box. You're also going to need one of these mirrors that we've seen at Dollar Tree now for a couple of years, but the one I'm getting is the Starburst one. So with your light, you're gonna take it out of the package and then we need to pop off the frame around our mirror. So mine has some screws on the back that I'm gonna have to unscrew to get that frame off. Next, I'm gonna take my mirror and my frame outside and I'm gonna spray paint them the color copper. Now you're gonna need to do 2 coats on both of these, but you wanna completely cover both of these pieces. Now don't worry if you get spray paint on the mirror because that's gonna be covered later. Once everything is dry, you want to add the frame back to your push light and put the screws back in. You're also going to need to add batteries to your push light. Now you may be guessing what I'm doing here. I wanted to put this push light on top of this Starburst mirror. Now since it has batteries, I don't want to use glue or anything that's going to keep it on there permanently. So I decided to go with some command strips. That way if the batteries run out, I could always replace them. I'm gonna put 2 command strips on my mirror and place the push light on top. You can put this anywhere in a cabinet or a small wall, anywhere where you want a little bit of extra lighting, and then just push it to turn it on. This is a great time of year for a wreath, and I have to tell you, the last time I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across so many natural looking florals that I had to pick up several of them to use in this project. And when you can find those more natural colors in your wreath, it's gonna make them look so much more high-end. Several of those wreaths that I see on Pottery Barn's website use these natural color stems. So I'm gonna be using 3 different florals for this project, and I bought 7 of each of the florals. I'm also going to be using a wire frame base. I have found over the years that this is probably my favorite wreath base. I'm gonna start by using my 2 basic greenery pieces, and then I'm gonna come in later with my flowers. So I'm gonna place 3 florals down alternating. So I'll put 1, 2, and 3 down. And I'm just gonna stagger them a little bit. Once I have 3 down, I'm going to hold them together and put a zip tie on to secure them in place. I really like using zip ties on wreaths. I find for the base of your wreath, this does a great job of holding everything in place. So I'm gonna repeat that all the way around my wreath, adding in 3 florals and zip tying them together. Continue to do this around your entire wreath. Next, flip it over, add a little bit of hot glue to secure everything. Now it's time to add in my floral pieces. So my suggestion here would be to now hang your wreath up, because it's so much different putting together a wreath when it's hanging up versus when it's flat. I find that I'm able to really make adjustments so much better. So I'm gonna hang my wreath up, and then I'm going to add in these gorgeous white florals that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I'll cut off 3 of the leaves and then I will secure it in place. Now these I'm just gonna secure in by placing them into the florals. I'll also add in a little bit of hot glue. From here, when it's hanging, you can really make adjustments, move leaves around. If you see a little bit of the wire, add a little bit of hot glue so you can cover that up with a leaf. And here's how this wreath turned out. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Come at the words of the day, which is home decor. I really wanted to dupe this next painting, and I felt like it was easy enough that I could do it. I'm gonna break down all the steps for you, and you could recreate this painting at home. You're gonna start with 2 canvases. I decided to go with 16 by 20 canvas, but if you want them larger or smaller, you could make that adjustment. I'm going to spray paint the canvases with an ivory color. My favorite spray paint lately has been Sand Dollar. I'll do 2 coats of Sand Dollar on both of my canvases. Now that my canvases are dry, I wanted to recreate those circles. Now I could paint them on, but I was afraid that I wasn't going to get them exactly right. The other thing is I really wanted them to have a raised texture. So the idea I came up with was to get a piece of cardstock, and then I took some spackling that you would use on your walls, and I spread it all over my piece of cardstock. And I wanted it to kind of have a lot of like character to it. So I didn't want it to be perfect. I didn't want it to be smooth. So I put a layer on, and then I let that dry completely. I did this with 4 different pieces of cardstock because in that original piece, if you look at it, there are 12 circles. So I knew to create 2 of these, I was going to have to create 24 circles. So the next thing I did was I went into my sample paints and I pulled out 12 colors that were kind of that color scheme that I wanted. And this was pretty easy to do because this is my color scheme. I love neutrals, I love blues, I love greens. So I pulled out all of those colors, and on my cardstock, I did 3 strips. So I just picked a color, painted it on, and did 3 strips because 1 strip is going to give me 2 circles. So I did this on all 4 pieces of my cardstock. Let that dry. The next step is I needed to draw my circles. So I found a flower pot as my template, and I flipped it over to the back side and created circles on either edge, and then I created circles on the middle, making sure that I put them where I wouldn't get any of the colors mixed together. Then the next step is to just cut out your circles. You do want to flip it over on the front side and make sure you don't have any rough edges. After you get all your circles cut out, I do think it's worth it to make these circles because I love the texture they provided. I'm gonna place 12 circles on the canvas, and I measured all the sides to make sure they were the exact same. I really didn't care what they were. I honestly kind of put it where I liked the way it looked, but if I had 3 inches on one side, I wanted to make sure I had 3 inches on the other side. And I really concentrated on those outside pieces, and I knew the inside ones, I could kind of change those a little bit. So I started by hot gluing everything down. I started on the outside pieces, and then I went to the interior ones. Now you do want to make sure that you get enough hot glue that all of your edges are going to be securely down. Now I needed to replicate that on my other canvas. Now I didn't want the circles to be in the same spot, so really I tried to put them on there very randomly, but I did want my measurements to be the same. So I put everything on there and made sure I had the exact same measurements and it looked the same, and then I hot glued those in place. I did also want to add a wood frame, so I cut pieces so that they fit around the outside of my canvases, and then to attach them I used E6000 and hot glue to secure them to the sides. And here's how these Anthropologie dupe canvases turned out. I wanted to take these terracotta plant saucers and turn them into trays. To do this, I wanted to put like a half bead on the outside of my trays. So I went through my craft room to see what I had. I had a couple of options. I had some wood beads, and then I also had these like pearl beads, and I felt like they both would work because I was going to be painting it. So on the larger one, I added these wood beads. I'll link them for you down below if you're interested in these, but I just put a little bit of hot glue on the back and then placed them around the exterior of my tray. I didn't measure it. Honestly, I just tried to space them as evenly as possible. On the smaller one, I used the pearl beads to place them on. Once they were dry, I wanted to paint this, and I came in with kind of like a rich brown taupey color. I also mixed it with some baking soda. This is kind of my trick when I only want to do one coat of paint. Sometimes I have to do two, but it just creates a really gritty texture, which I like the appearance of that, and it also cuts down on the amount of paint coats you have to do. So with this, I only had to do one paint coat. So I put the paint on both of the trays and let that dry. Do you guys remember on our last shopping trip when I showed you this leaf placemat? Well, I came up with an idea for it. So I have the leaf placemat, and I also went to the party section and got one of these clear bowls. Love the shape of it. So what I wanted to do was wrap the gold placemat around this bowl. So I started at the top and I hot glued it in place. And then I just started to wrap it around, adding a little bit of hot glue here and there. I wanted it to be very secure on my bowl. So I wrapped it around until it was almost covered. Then I started to cut it along the bottom so that it was even with the bottom of the bowl. I did hot glue those pieces in place, and then I continued to hot glue it until it was secure, cutting off the remainder of the gold placemat. Next, I added in some rocks, and you could put any florals in here. I've styled it with some new florals that they have out at Dollar Tree. Blue has been such a popular color this year. I wanted to recreate something that was a little bit more traditional in that blue color. So two of these items that Dollar Tree's had out a while, I picked up this blue and white bowl. I also picked up this clear bowl that they have. You guys have probably seen this at your Dollar Tree. So I wanted to create a pedestal bowl. So I'm going to flip over the blue and white bowl, add a little bit of E6000 to it, and then put my clear bowl on top. Now you could put real fruit in there. I found these faux pears at Dollar Tree, and I love the way they look, and I just think this is so cute together. I found this adorable bird container out at Dollar Tree. I just think it's so cute, but I wanted to change up the color, so I sprayed the entire thing with the color Sand Dollar. Then I just added on spackling to finish it off. And here's how the container looks in my home. I found this floral tote at Dollar Tree and thought it was absolutely adorable. I wanted to try to use it in a project. I thought, what if we turned it into wall art? I also found some canvas prints that were in a very similar style, so I picked those up. And then I went to the frame section and got frames that were 8x10, 5x7, and 4x6. There's so many frames to choose at Dollar Tree, and I was really drawn to this woven one. I'm gonna remove the contents of my frame. And then on the frames themselves, I'm going to use Rub and Buff to adjust the color to a color that fits a little bit better in my home. Next, I'm going to cut down the tote so that it's the largest one that I have. I'm going to use that piece of paper that comes in the 8x10 frame and put it on top of my tote. I'll draw around it and then cut it out. I'll do the same thing with the smaller prints. I'll put the 5x7 paper on one of my floral prints, trace around it, and cut it out. And I'll repeat those steps with the 4x6. I'll place all of the prints into the frame. And here's how they look all together. If you haven't been to Dollar Tree, you need to go there soon because they keep putting out all new items, like these 2 new blue containers I found. These are absolutely adorable and would look perfect in your home. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite. I love knowing your opinion. And make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.